It's time to unbox and have a look at the Aixun T3B soldering station. I personally paid £124 for my one, but they're on sale this specific model for £133.19. In my last video of reviewing a soldering iron, I reviewed the Aixun A9E. I'll leave a link to that somewhere above. That, however, came with 9 tips and 3 handles. What we're looking at today, however, simply comes with 1 handle and 3 tips for more than double the price. So let's bear that in mind. I'll be putting this iron through some basic JDT soldering tests. Now, I repair consoles, so my use case is going to be stuff like Nintendo Switches and PlayStation 5s, and just have a general poke around and see if I like it or don't, basically. As always, I'll leave an affiliate link for this specific soldering iron in the description down below. Let's get started. Another certified certificate, lovely. I will refer to the instructions if I need to, but one of the things I like is just being able to get something working without looking at the instructions for, I guess, like simplicity purposes, you know, because I'm very simple. Okay, well, this is literally the packaging. That's it. Oh, there's not actually an instruction manual, unless it's below that bit of foam, or unless they've included it in here. No, we've got the silica gel stuff. This feels pretty nice. Definitely a lot heavier than the Aixun, but a lot lighter than what the Hakko would be. Oh, we've got a USB-C port on the side as well. That's interesting. Let's take this out. Oh, I see. So this one has the wire built. Oh, wait a minute. What's that? I'm so confused. Okay, confusion over. I think this plugs in to the station, which would make sense. And then the handle itself, which I presume is here, plugs in here. I like the weighty feel to all of this stuff so far. It does have the triangular bits as well that we can, I'm assuming, change our tips. We've got some copper wire down here, which is in a bit of a recessed rubber. Now, how hard is that to take out and change? Let me just see. Oh, it's not too bad because you pull that out and then you take it from the bottom. I thought I was going to have to squeeze it out from here, but that's not horrendous. I kind of like it. It feels very snug and, again, well built. That's not loose. It's not going anywhere. So when I go to dip the iron in, feel very secure. Now we do have, there's a couple of, I don't know what that is on the side. The reel, by the looks of it, you can put, I think that's going to be like a T8 or Allen key, whatever it is, into that. And you can move this up and down. Let me see. Let me just unwind that. Okay, yeah. So you can unwind this. And then that moves up and down. So you can angle it. I'm just going to leave it pretty much as standard, however, for the time being. But I do like that you've got that as an option, you know. It looks like, very much like what we have on the Aixun A9, is that you've got the stick thing that stands up here. That looks like exactly what that is. And what that would then do is hold the wires so that when you're soldering, it doesn't get in the way. But I don't think it comes with that, from what I can tell. Oh, here we go. Here's the tips and everything else. Look at that. Again, we've gone for the T210. More than double the price of what the Aixun was, considering the fact that Aixun came with a lot more. Comes with a few foam, I think, or not foam, but like a, I don't even know, like a rubbery sort of material, which I'm assuming goes nicely on the handle like that, to just give you that extra oomph. Yeah, I like that. And the fact that it comes with another one is pretty cool. Let's take this off and get her set up then. The length of this cable is actually longer. I'd say the Aixun A9 was 1 meter, and this seems like it's around about a 1.5, I think. It does also state on the top of the machine, this is 96 watt, and it says power of the whole machine. I want to take a look at the unit itself. At the back, we've got where the ground and wire goes, standard kettle lead, and a little fan as well, which is quite a nice touch. And then we've got the front. We've got a set and a channel button. I feel a little bit spongy, but you know, there is tactile feeling there, but I'd say not as much tactile feeling as what is on the Aixun A9, to be honest. And we've got a dial here. That's got quite a nice feel to it, actually. And that's a clicky as well. And then this is the power button. Now, this power button actually recesses in. It's like a switch, more so than a clicky button, if that makes sense. And then you just got rubber feet on the bottom as well. So that is going to be handy. I like that the tips have come in these little boxes. It definitely feels like more of a premium touch than the Aixun, that's for sure so far anyway. Just in the tips alone, I'm talking about. And I think these tips are also going to be compatible with the other irons. So it looks like we've got an IO10, a KO30 and an SO20. Same ends of the tips that comes with the other irons as well. So we've got the J tip. That looks a bit different though. It looks like a bit of a thicker J tip, as well as a knife tip. Looking forward to using that. And I'm just not going to use the circular tip because I don't think anybody uses those. So I don't think I'm going to have to unravel this. That's an okay click there. Yeah, because I'm going to have it relatively close anyway. So that's going to go like that. And then this is just going to simply click in here. I'll be honest, that feels a bit plasticky, putting that in. But I mean, wire quality, I'm going to go ahead and assume is okay. But like I said, we don't have the thing that is on the side to hold the wire, so that'll be quite beneficial. And the Aixun came with that. The handle itself feels pretty light. Okay, go ahead and chuck some power in this then, and let's see what happens? I'm just going to put the iron in here. That again, I know I'm going to keep rabbiting on and comparing it, but that is ideally what these videos are. Comparing it to a soldering iron that is less than half the price, you know? It's the same sort of technology, it feels, as what the Aixun has, where it kind of clicks in nicely there. That's all plugged in. Let's get a little bit of a close-up, shall we? Let's give it some power. 3, 2, 1. Okay, nice blue LED. I really like the screen on this. I do have the peel on. It says T210, so I'm assuming that's the iron that's just plugged in. I'm just going to press that. Is it doing something? Set channel doesn't seem to be doing anything, and neither does that. And the iron is plugged in. Everything's ready to go. I think I'm waiting for something. I'm assuming. Hold it down. Oh, okay. So let me hold it down again. It's in Chinese. Yeah, holding it down definitely does something. And pressing CH takes us back or something. I don't know. If I turn that round, it's not doing anything. If I click, it's not doing anything. If I press set, it's not doing anything. Let me hold it. Okay, so that's changing something, but I kind of don't want to change anything, you know, because I don't know what I'm changing. I'm going to refer to a manual, I think, but I still don't think it came with one. So maybe I'm going to have to look online, see what's going on, which is not ideal if we're being 100% honest. I got told off in one of my previous videos for not using the manual, and you know what? It does make perfect sense because I was struggling for a little bit. So I'm going to avoid that mistake this time. But there's definitely no manual, and it's in Chinese, so I can't navigate through the menu. I'm hoping the performance of this blows me away, because the initial unboxing experience, if I'm buying this and purchasing it for, you know, the sake of repairing consoles, it doesn't seem to be too great at the moment. But I could be wrong. Okay, so I've looked around and I found the manual, but I've just used Google Translate because that just seemed to be 10 times easier, because I didn't know what they said, and it said that I need to insert an actual handle. That's what it's saying, so I couldn't do anything. I'm going to turn it off just to make sure we're all good, and then put that in there, and now I'll go and turn it on. There we go. Okay, so now I have some actual options. It's still, I think, mainly in Chinese from what I can tell, but let me see if I can now navigate to a menu. Here we go. Yes, there we go. English. So I had to press set to go to the menu. So I went set, and then I went down to language, and there I was able to change it. Max temp 450. So let's go through some settings. So I've just turned that off. What else have we got in here? Let's have a look. So we've got temperature calibration as well. Lock temperature off. Standby temperature. Put it right down. Say 100. Go back. I like the interface. It's nice. I don't know what eco time is. 30 minutes. Screen reset. Okay, that's fine. I can leave all of those. What else do we have? Buzzel. I'm going to turn that off for the time being. Temp unit Celsius. Perfect. Okay. This is what it looks like. And then we've got the, if I press C, here we go. Oh, so I can set that by just pressing channel here. So I'm going to set this to, again, around about 380 or so. Maybe I need to press the set button. That would make sense, wouldn't it? No? What if I hold it? Set. No, just put it back to 100. Okay, not massively intuitive on how to actually set the temp. I'm going up here to change it, even holding it down. Every time I hold it down, it just resets back to 100. One thing I didn't even really do with the Aixun was just see if there was a firmware update. So I am going to do that as well now quickly, because it's got USB-C as well. So I should technically be able to just plug this in and update the firmware. Okay, so unfortunately, the only thing that I could see on their website was actually the fact that you need to download the software itself. There's no specific firmware that I can download for the T3B straight from the website. It looks like I have to download some software to do it, you know. So this is the software, by the way. I'll be honest, I can't be bothered to make the account. And yeah, I'm not gonna bother. I'm just gonna leave it on the firmware that it currently is. Maybe I'll scour and see if anyone's got it on Reddit or something, but I'm not signing up to this. Okay, so I've just found this website, and I've got 1.16 installed, so it looks like I've got the latest version of the firmware anyway, which was June 2024. All right, so I have found where to change the settings. I think the standard one. So if you go temp shortcut, there we go. Look, it says 280. So I'll put this up to 380. I think this is how we do it anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and assume 420, and then I'm just going to go 450, which is the max. So now if I go back, there we go, 380, 420, 450. It's all changed. How quick does this bad boy heat up? Let's just go with 380 and see what happens. Ready? Gonna remove it from the holder, and I'll just see how quickly this ramps up. That's very quick. That's a lot quicker than the Aixun. That's a lot quicker. And then if I put it back, cooling wise, yeah, I mean, cooling looks like it's probably going to be around about the same. If I went to 450, takes a bit of getting used to. There we go. Let's go 450. It's up very quick. I can't lie. It's very, very quick that it goes up. That's really impressive. And then if I just put it into the braid down here, you can see It's working. You can see it working. But it's keeping 450. And it's only around about 20% or so. And I like the fact that this has no like splashback. I think that's what this is designed for. So when I do have solder on here and I'm doing that, it's not going to flick out everywhere because this rubber is kind of keeping it from doing that. So we'll go 380 just for testing purposes. And I'll go ahead now and put the station over here. I mean, from my personal experience, the whole unboxing and just setting up, it's not as intuitive as what the Aixun is. Not as intuitive. That doesn't mean that it's functionally it's worse, but for me personally, it's just a little bit more complex. On the contrary, maybe that is a me thing and somebody else would just not struggle with this at all. So now that we've got it set up, let's see what this bad boy can do. You best believe we're starting with a ground plane test on the PlayStation 5. No flux to start, just a little dump to see what happens. So again, 380 degrees Celsius. Let's see how this performs. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I'm not like massively blown away yet. It definitely feels buttery smooth and it's working at around about 50% right now. So it's not pushing all the way to up to 100. I can tell you one thing though, once it does get melted, there's not really any stickiness at all when I move this around. So what that tells me specifically with this iron is that there isn't really a loss of heat when you're moving around. Not that you would need to necessarily move around too much, but like that, I'm getting no stickiness here at all. Like no stickiness whatsoever. So it's like the iron is not dropping in temperature massively and skewing my results. You know, it's coping very well with that. And this is 380 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to put a big blob now and just see how that gets on. So I think this actually takes a little bit longer on 380 for the solder to travel to ground. But once it's on ground, you can see the pool of liquid I have here and how liquidy it is. It's not sticking. That's really good. That is really good. It feels good as well. I'm going to pump it now. I'm going to go 420 degrees Celsius. See how this gets on. Oh yeah, you can see how much quicker. Did you see how much quicker that went onto ground then? We're still operating at around about the 50% or so in terms of actual power. Let's go over here. Let's dump in a load. Wow, you can see how quickly that dropped onto ground. Okay. That was nice. That was nice. Look at that. This is strong. This is very, very strong. Wow, it's doing a great job. And now I'm just going to play at 450 to see. I don't know how that could really get much better considering the size of this tip. That is quite disgusting. Let's see. Wow, okay, fine. Yeah, it's definitely quicker, isn't it? At 450. They're not messing about. And then if I try and drag, look. Yeah. The way that the heat travels with this is very nice. I can't lie. It definitely feels like it travels a little bit nicer than the Aixun. But we have to bear in mind that the Aixun is half the price. When you put that into perspective, is it massively worth it in terms of the difference? Not yet, but we've still got a lot to test. I mean, it is nice. It is nice. It feels nice. The jankiness and the no stickiness is a real... Until you kind of, you know, have a feeling for it, you don't really know what that feeling is like. But that is really nice. How it's like even just connecting all of this solder. That's really nice. It's working very hard. This is 450 degrees Celsius, but it's working very, very hard. Very, very hard to make your job easy, if that makes sense. Now, it's very much the same in terms of swapping tips. You quite simply, if you have a look over here, I come in, I dip it in the little triangle. Oh, ow. Okay, well, I failed that. That was definitely a user error. Let me try that again. Why did that pop out like that? Okay, maybe I don't think I was leaning back enough on it. So I put it in and then I pull. Yeah, okay, that's better. That was a user fault. Something about that definitely feels not as sturdy as what the Aixun does though. That doesn't feel as secure, but again, that could just be me. Let me put the J tip on then. So what I will say whilst I'm here, just a quick mention, is that if I take this tip off, I mean, it definitely feels a lot jankier than swapping with the other iron. But if I now put this in, what's happening here when I'm pushing down? I don't know if this is where you're meant to store them, but when I'm pushing down here, I actually need to push it down further. That's not all the way in. So when I push this down, it doesn't go all the way, which is quite It's, you know, quite frustrating, to be honest. Same with this one. Like when I go ahead and push it down, it's not in all the way. And I don't really want to push down on the J-tip like that because I don't want it to break. Just the little things like that, you know. I'm going to go over to the opposite side of the board now on ground again. And we'll start with 380 on J-tip. Right, it's not massively what this should be used for, is it? But, I mean, 380 is not doing... Oh, wait a minute. What's going on here? Is that what it's meant to look like? Well, that doesn't... Maybe... Is that because I've pushed down on it and broken it? Have I broken it? I'm gonna whack this all the way up to 450 and just go like here and see how that does. It's very sticky. Very sticky. But I don't know if I've broken the tip, to be honest. Because it didn't go all the way in. So I've pushed it and ultimately I think I might have broken it. Unless somebody can tell me in the comments, I'm not sure. But this isn't used for this job. Let me get that straight. You know, it'd be more so used for something like this, where you had to use the end of the J-tip to tin this area or drag solder, perhaps. So if I just chuck some solder on there again, however, I think I have ruined the tip. Bear in mind as well, I'm at 450. Yeah, it's very sticky. So I'm gonna hold it on a little bit longer. Very sticky. I don't think I can do this accurately because I think I've broken the tip. That is most definitely a me thing, unfortunately. So I'll go back to the knife tip and we'll just use that as comparison. Editing, Joey, just cutting in here because I found something after the fact I've actually recorded this entire video. And I know that I am an absolute noob and I will take the criticism on board. What we have on here, which is the same as what we'd have on the Aixun, is an area for us to push on the iron tips just here, I believe. So I think 10, I think I can use this one just if I need to. You know, I said it was kind of short going in here, which I still believe, by the way, it's still short. You should be able to push all the way down. If I take the tip out like that, instead of pushing down on here, I can take it over to this smaller hole here and just push like that on the end of the tip. That would have also saved the J-tip from breaking, but I thought I'd just add that in because that was a mistake on my behalf, so I do apologize. It's 450 on there. Look at that. It is, yeah, the knife tip's really, really good. And now if I just try and drag here, needs more flux. I'm trying to drag this solder over, but it doesn't seem to be sticking very well to the tip. And this is 450 degrees Celsius, by the way. I'm not able to drag solder here, you know. Despite this being super strong right now, why is that not happening? Let me just take this area, for example. This is where one of the SSD chips are, and I'm going to set the temp to 420 degrees Celsius here. So what I would look to do is add leaded solder, okay? So I'm going to come in with a knife tip and drop some leaded and just tin this area with the leaded. It's done a good job tinning. And then if I grab a little bit of wick, I mean, it's doing this very easily. A little bit of stickiness, little bit, but again, we are also at 420, so we're not at 450. If I was on this board, then I'm probably going to operate at 450. But I mean, it's handled that very, very well. Nice clean joints there, as we can see. If I go over to the big boy, which is the SSD controller, I like using this as a point of reference as well. That to me looks already like leaded solder. However, I'm just going to go over it with some more leaded. Big area of the board, 450 degrees Celsius, using this tip. A little bit sticky. I mean, it's done a very good job in terms of not leaving solder behind. Look at this. Can you see how it's moving the solder around? And look, you just got that little ball there. You see me in it. Hello. Scoop it up. Try and scoop it up. Attach it to the iron. It likes the board too much. Let me clean my iron tip. See if that helps. What I feel like this is doing is keeping the solder so hot for such a long time. Look at this. I'm playing football with it. Look at that. How does it wick this bit up? Very nicely. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, that's That's come across really strong in terms of wicking. Really strong. Let's test the rest of it. Here we go, going for the wick. See how this performs. This area specifically is going to benefit from definitely bigger tips, all right? This is not a normal sort of use case. It's just to show you guys how competent the iron is. Wow. Okay. All right. It does a very good job. It does a very good job, I can't deny. Now, again, important things to kind of note that I look for when I do jobs like this is the silk screen and the solder mask. I can't really see, I don't think. And look how hot this flux is still really hot. Because the soldering iron, I think in terms of raw power, is very good. I feel like it sinks a lot of power into the board, which obviously helps the job of the iron, because solder and flux love heat. I'm just giving this a quick clean so I can then inspect, but that looks pretty good at 450 degrees Celsius. Okay, so I do see some slight missings of solder mask. So for example, we have just up here, just here as well, just here. But in terms of the actual process itself, it done very, very well. And usually I would be applying hot air to this area to remove the SSD controller that sits on the board. So please don't take this as complete and utter gospel, but it's done very well. I have to give it that. It's done very, very well. And for simple jobs, just, you know, for tinning, if I was to just put a little bit of flux in this area, I have complete and utter faith that this is just going to do very well. Yeah, look at that. Very, very well. And it's going to do this ground plane so easily. Watch this. Yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like in certain circumstances, this does have a lot more power than the Aixun specifically. In terms of actually removing components. How do we... Wow, okay, all right. Yep. That's just me adding... The solder is really helping this because the leaded to the unleaded, but still it's just kind of chopping through these components like it's nothing. Like it's just chopped through them. So yeah, in some ways, this definitely feels like it's got more power. But with great power comes great responsibility. Let's move on to something a little bit smaller. So this is a Nintendo Switch board. Again, it's just not going to struggle. I know that. So I'm going to go 420 for this specific use case. Don't need to really operate at 450 here. For example, around M92 T36. Stuff like tin in this, just no problem at all. Look at that. Yeah, very, very easy. Should we see how we get on with the port? I like doing this test, even though it's not something that, you know, I would do. I wouldn't tin these at all, usually. But I'm just going to put a tiny bit of solder on my iron and see if we can drag solder on here. Because we struggled on that connector earlier. But I'm just going to see if I can, first off, put solder on the pins just by holding my iron in place. How well does it do there? Not great. What I'm looking for here is I'm looking for solder to travel up the gold pins, but it's not doing that at the moment. There we go, there's one. And now it's now doing it because the area is hotter, but it's still not doing it great. Maybe I'm not getting the knife tip in there enough, perhaps? Like this, let's try this now. Solder right on the end. Seems to be doing a better job like this. Still not fantastic. I still see quite a bit of gold contacts. Let me try and let me do some drag soldering here. That's a lot better to do it like that. I'm just going to heat this a bit more. Look at that. Let's take this solder. I mean, yeah, it's done a good job on the drag soldering aspect. Poking it didn't feel great, but on the drag soldering, it felt good. Let's just go back over it. And now if I just go to tin like this, look. All of those gold, what were gold contacts, should now be silver because the solder's gone up them. Bar a couple on the right-hand side, but yeah, it's done well, you know. And I had lots of solder there, FYI, but I feel for stuff like this on a Nintendo Switch and small jobs, this is going to be a very, very good iron. Here, for example, we've got ground. Like filling up these ground holes, no struggle at all. Look at that. And I wonder if that is shown to go through to the other side or not. Not massively. But yeah, heat transfer is definitely not an issue on this iron. in any way, shape or form. I think the key of using the knife tip is to try and get it on the edge. Look at that. Wow. That's really nice. That's really, really nice. I've not put any solder on these resistors here, and this is such a small area to get into. I wonder if I get away with it here. Wow, look at that. That's amazing. For just tinning those areas, that's really good. For like proper micro soldering. Can I get in between this cap? I can, look, without even removing the cap. And I can tin these bits down here. That's really good. That's really, really good. Because these areas are very, very tough to get into. And this is not a 115. This is a 210. What about really, really, really tiny ones like this FPC connector here? Let's see. Can I touch on the end or is it going to burn? Might burn the plastic. Yeah, it's not small enough just for that. Maybe I'm getting some of them, look. But it's going to burn the plastic before we're actually able to... I wouldn't use that for this. Maybe this is the job for the 115, perhaps, which we don't have, unfortunately, with this kit. But in terms of, like, my first run out with it, what I will say is, you know, the unit itself is nice and sturdy to have. Like, that's definitely not going anywhere. I'm not a big fan of this little bit. I know what the idea is, that it doesn't splash back and whatnot, but when you're trying to be quick, trying to actually get it in here, sometimes I failed that because I'm just used to having like a big open bolt or square. So having that is a little bit annoying. Plus, on some occasions, I've pulled out this like that. But again, that could just be my user error. I like the fact that we can obviously put the tips in here, but this, the way we extract and put the tips in, definitely feels jankier than the Aixun, in my honest opinion. I'm just going to see. So this is a little bit of leftover solder, and I'm at 450 degrees Celsius. This is a ground hole where the Nintendo Switch USB-C charging port is. I'm just going to see if it wicks it up with ease. No flux, by the way. Let's start with no flux. Wow, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's not, considering there's no flux at all. Okay. The tip doesn't have perfect circumference, I'd say, is the word that I'm going to use. So I'm just going to add some solder here, because it will fill it up. It will do a job of filling it up, that's for sure. Now I come in with a bit of flux, and then go for the wick. Yeah, I mean, it's not done as well as what I would expect in this scenario. Considering as well that it's 450 degrees Celsius, you know? I mean, you know, in my opinion, it's a great iron. It's a really, really good iron. There was some benefits, especially on like the bigger ground planes and stuff, that it really shone. However, when it came to like even just some drag soldering, you know, it didn't do as well as what I potentially thought it would do given the strength when it was performing on ground. Now, one thing I've noticed as well, look, I've just gone to turn it off and it's not turning off. So, I don't know what this button's here for. You know what I mean? What is this button here for in general? Does it turn off eventually? Or because it's just, there we go. Okay, it does eventually turn off, but it takes a while, hey? And then if I turn it on, there we go. The interface itself is beautiful. I like the brightness and everything else that's going on here, and it does look quite simple. I also like the fact it's got a picture of the handle down here. But the fact that takes so long to turn off is a little bit concerning for me. Does it still function? Yeah, it does. Look, I mean, if you wanted to change some stuff, you can whilst it's off, supposedly. I guess one of the only things that I really, really like from this is the fact that where you can store the tips here. I like that. But the fact that it doesn't go down as far when you push it in and make sure that it goes in the whole way is a little bit concerning for my liking. I'm not a fan of that. And the extraction isn't as great. Good iron overall. In my opinion, there's one winner in this race. For me, the Aixun A9E smokes it. It's half the price roughly. I mean, there's always deals on AliExpress, but let's put it this way, it's a lot cheaper than what this iron is. The Aixun A9E came with 3 handles and 3 tips for each handle, so 9 tips in total, whereas this came with 1 handle and 3 tips, and I think I broke one of them. I'd still probably, with the price point, use this over my Hakko, because the Hakko again is around about 350, and I feel like with some more tips that are purchased for this, it could do a good job. But I do feel like you need that bigger handle for stuff like the SSD controller, etc. Could get away with using this one, the T210, but just to make your life easy, the T245 would massively outperform it. Just confirm as well, the option is there to purchase so this is the T210, but there is the T115 here, which is the much smaller one. You know, that would be a pretty interesting test as well, and it's a lot cheaper. It's £97 rather than, I mean, it's almost £40 more for the bigger handle here, you know. But for me, personal opinion, of course, And nothing against the company. I think for the price point, it does really well. However, I just can't look past the Aixun A9E at the moment. For the price to performance is crazy and smokes this. Please remember, this is based off my soldering skills as well as a big portion of this. Tinning wires, this thing ain't going to struggle, and probably doing 1,000 other different jobs, it's not going to be an issue. So please just remember and bear that in mind, that is my abilities as well as my personal opinion. Again, I'll leave a link down below just in case you are interested in this. I'll also leave a link to the Aixun A9E as well. I can't wait for the last one in this series, this 3-part series, the Finersi DWS 200, I believe. A 200 watt soldering station. Is that going to smoke both of these? We'll find out in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.